You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning and welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News for December the 8th, 2025. Good morning, Rev Cindy.
Good morning. How are you?
Chilly. I went outside this morning and did my morning walk and it was minus 21. Brr.
Yeah, we had
Like,
those kinds of temperatures the other day.
yeah. It's feeling like minus 25 or 26 or something. But the sun is nice.
Very good. We have a snowstorm going on here, one of these nor'easter type Alberta, whatever they're calling it. Tons of snow.
Well, I can tell you we got blue sky here. So we'll send it your way so you get our weather eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Anything new and exciting before we get into the news?
Oh, well, I've been off the last week. It's been a week. I had a terrible fall 3 weeks ago tomorrow, and I've been healing from that, as you know.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of healing from that, my father was diagnosed with cancer, and I had to take a couple of days off to worry and just send energy to my dad. But surgery was successful. They got everything, and we're very happy about it.
Good. And he's healing. Good. That's important.
I was chatting with him yesterday, and he actually was finally sounding like himself. So
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Send some healing vibes his way for us.
I appreciate it all.
All righty. Well, let's hope Dad is bounces right back and gets right at it very shortly, and we'll get right at the news with the first story of the day.
Yeah, coming to us from CTV News. This one hits home here in Nova Scotia. Mi'kma'ki chiefs frustrated with calls for crackdown on illegal Nova Scotia cannabis dispensaries.
The 13 Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq chiefs say the provincial government's calls for a crackdown on illegal cannabis dispensaries, including on reserve dispensaries, misunderstand treaty rights. Although our perspectives may differ, it's important to state that the province does not govern our communities, says Chief Terence Paul in a news release from the Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs.
We have a right to self-governance and self-determination, Paul said. This is a clear example of what happens when the province will not come to the table with us from the outset. An archaic government process we've experienced far too often in our communities.
On Thursday, Justice Minister Scott Armstrong called on the police to step up enforcement and shut down illegal cannabis shops. A recent scan by the province found that there are at least 118 dispensaries in Nova Scotia, which they say illegal dispensaries, compared to 51 NSLC cannabis shops.
Wow, that has gone up in the last year. A year ago, it was only 50.
Yeah.
Protecting Nova Scotians means strengthening our efforts, advancing new measures, and shutting down the shadow market before it can cause more harm to public health and safety, said Armstrong. Armstrong sent a letter to the 13 Mi'kma'ki chiefs asking for their cooperation in shutting down these stores.
The Assembly said it reached out to the Nova Scotia government about what the regulation of cannabis could look like in Mi'kmaq communities when the federal government legalized cannabis in 2018, but they claim the province rejected those requests. The news release reads that our regulatory system could not proceed.
Yeah. The result is exactly what we predicted, a system that does not and cannot work in our communities, the release says. Attempting an approach in 2025 that ignores previous opportunities to work together and the formal existing channels to work nation to nation is disrespectful.
Last April, the province launched new regulations to allow licensed NSLC supplied stores on reserves, with proceeds staying in the community. So far, only one Mi'kmaq community has signed up, according to the NSLC.
Yeah, we'll have ongoing negotiations and discussions with First Nations, Armstrong said. But right now, the only legal distributor of cannabis in Nova Scotia is the Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation. The Assembly said the RCMP needs to respond to the priorities of the chiefs and councils in each community.
Minister Armstrong must understand that the province does not have jurisdiction to govern our communities, nor do they have a complete understanding of what happens in our community, says Chief Paul. Therefore, they cannot decide what is best for our members.
Mm-hmm. We hold Aboriginal title, Aboriginal rights, and treaty rights over our territory of Mi'kma'ki. The jurisdiction protects our autonomy and our identity. Nova Scotia must realize that non-collaborative approach was never, nor will ever, be appropriate or acceptable.
I'm going to mess this up. Sipnick Chief and Council also said they are appalled by the direct threat to our community's safety by the province's focus on enhanced enforcement at illegal cannabis dispensaries. Now, the Chief Michelle Glasgow says in a statement, using public safety as a reason to override our inherent rights to self-govern and implement our treaty is a modern economic context is appalling. These are abuses of colonial power.
Absolutely. The province's actions through the Minister of Justice are acts of systematic racism and inciting hate against the Mi'kma'ki people, labeling us the problem. And this narrative is absolutely disgusting. This Spinaki chief and council said the government and police need to focus on illicit drugs like fentanyl and opiates.
Legal expert Wayne McKay says he was also surprised by the Attorney General's directive, warning it may push legal boundaries in terms of jurisdictional control and Indigenous sovereignty, but it could also represent political interference in policing. Goes on to say that it's not a clear violation. It's kind of a borderline case. It's not, for example, directly like what U.S. President Donald Trump is doing, targeting specific individuals or operations, but it's a little to that borderline that it's really the concern there.
Attorney General Armstrong maintains the law is clear and that Nova Scotia Liquor Commission stores are the only legal retailers of cannabis in Nova Scotia, and that includes on reserves. While the province maintains this is a public health and safety issue, McKay questions where finances factor in with the current PC government, which is facing a forecasted $1.2 billion deficit this year. The cannabis industry has been lucrative, seeing profits grow each year since it was legalized in 2018.
Yeah, the NSLC cannabis sales totaled more than $127 million last year. That's up from 121 in 2023-24. And there's some numbers there for the years. Now, McKay believes there could be financial reason behind the attempt of the government to strengthen its grip around what they call the shadow market. But the Attorney General didn't say how much money he believes is involved.
It's hard not to think that finances wouldn't be one of those factors, said McKay. But their main argument stated in the directive is public safety, and that is a classic and justifiable reason for limiting people's rights in the name of public safety. But they need to clearly lay out the public safety concerns. Oh, yeah, listen, because I can go on and on and on. Public safety, listen, Organigram poisoned me. I know other people that Organigram poisoned, and they all did that under the law. So don't even talk to me about public safety when your legal stuff is hurting people. and not all of it, by the way, but some of it is. Armstrong addressed the public health and safety concern in his letter to the chiefs, says the saying the NSLC retail framework restricts the sale of cannabis to youth and guarantees that all products sold are safe for consumption and meet Health Canada standards, and it limits the ability of organized crime to penetrate and profit from the illegal cannabis market.
The RCMP says mandate letters from government are routine, and the directive from the Justice Minister doesn't change their policing approach. Now, we are committed to respectively collaboratively relationships with First Nations communities, says Constable Mandy Edwards, who's the public information officer with the RCMP Halifax Department. She says that we will ensure enforcement is carried out respectively.
Well, and the police would not say whether they have conducted any raids since the directive came out Thursday, or if they plan to do so.
There you go. Yeah, it's it's getting nasty down there from what I'm reading, as far as them wanting to shut down the reserves and stuff, and here in Ontario, as you know, I'm in the middle of 2 reserves that got like a total of like 80 to 100 stores.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, going down, I mean, I love to go to the Green Mile where the healing house is. Like, I mean, literally you start on one end and you go for 2 kilometers and, there are literally 50 to 60 dispensaries as you drive down those 2 kilometers. It's insane. When they say it's the Green Mile, they truly mean it's the Green Mile.
Yeah.
And by the way, in the middle of
I haven't heard our government talk at all about doing anything.
No. In the middle of all of that, there is, in that particular Green Mile, there is a child care facility.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And there's also a community center. And I believe a school as well.
A school, restaurants. Yep.
Yeah.
And everybody's okay.
Yeah. Gas stations. They had to lower the speed limit because there was just so much traffic. So many people were going there. So. All right, time for us to move on to the next story of the day. Here we go.
Coming to us from StratCan, medical cannabis registrations stabilize in early 2025 while personal production licenses decline.
Oh, the number of medical client registrations with federal licensed sellers remained relatively stable in the first 3 months of 2025 after several years of declines, according to the newest update from Health Canada. Registrations for personal and designated cultivation of cannabis for their own medical purposes decreased 28%, while exports increased exponentially. 28%, that means more than a quarter of the people that were licensed to grow their own cannabis just aren't doing it now.
Yeah. There were 161,267 such registrations as of March 2025, compared to 160,705 in December of 24. Then it went up. Declines began in late 2019 after a peak of nearly, we're talking about just licenses here, I think, 370,000 such registrations with federally licensed medical cannabis sellers. The decline was briefly interrupted by a significant increase in the second half of 2020. Registrations with federally licensed sellers saw Ontario leading with about 82,500, representing just over half of the total. Alberta followed with almost 22,000, and Quebec was third with just over 16,000. Nova Scotia slightly surpassed British Columbia by about 500. Go Nova Scotia.
Now, Atlantic Canada, with a combined population of nearly 3 million in 2025, accounted for 23,611 total registrations. When analyzed on a per capita basis, Saskatchewan recorded the highest number of registrations, really, followed by PEI, Alberta, Newfoundland, Labrador, and then Ontario. Now they say while registrations with federal licensed sellers remain steady, the number of individuals registered with Health Canada for personal and designated cultivation of cannabis for their own medical purposes decreased 28%. That's from 15,767 to 11,304. This represents a significant decline compared to with a 5% decline in the previous 6 months.
This represented a decrease of 4,463 registrations for personal designated production from 3 provinces, British Columbia, Quebec, and Ontario, with the numbers listed there. The category of authorization has shown significant decrease from a peak of just over 47,000 such registrations in September of 2021, although it saw a brief resurgence in 2024.
The majority of individuals who assess cannabis for medical purposes under the Federal Cannabis Act and its regulations do so by obtaining cannabis products from a federally licensed seller. The average daily amount authorized by healthcare practitioners for these individuals who access from federally licensed sellers has ranged from 2 to 2.5 grams per day since the Cannabis Act came into force in October 2018.
2.6.
Yeah, like 3 grams for like
2.6.
yeah. So you're looking at, let's say, let's just look at the veterans end, $6 per gram. So that's $18 per day times 30 days. That can add up to a lot of money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They cover half of my prescription right now, and it's quite expensive.
And just think of the people who don't have any coverage.
Listen, I mean, when I see my bills every month that VAC pays, and I get it. It's expensive out there, and this is where I think a lot of the indigenous dispensaries come in that we were just talking about, that offer much better deals and much better rates than some of the cannabis that we have legally. The average daily amount authorized by healthcare practitioners for individuals registered to access cannabis for medical purposes from federally licensed sellers was 2.5 grams per day. The average daily amount authorized by healthcare practitioners for individuals registered with Health Canada for personal or designated production, however, was more than 10 times larger at 33.4 grams per day. This has remained relatively stable since mid-2023, but is down from a peak of 44.9 in early 2022. There were 4,172 healthcare practitioners associated with registrations made in the previous 12 months with federally licensed sellers, and 764 associated with active personal designated production registrations.
Of these, there were just 169 healthcare practitioners who authorized amounts equal or above 25 grams per day, and only 5 who authorized amounts equal to or above 100 grams per day. The majority, that's 82%, of healthcare practitioners who authorized amounts equal to or above 25 grams per day were located in British Columbia and Ontario. All healthcare practitioners who authorized amounts equal to or above 100 grams per day were also located in BC and Ontario.
The amount of dried cannabis Health Canada has endorsed for export has continued to increase, reaching a new high of 31,560.19 kg in February 2025, before dipping slightly to 31,134.68 kg in March of 2025. This represents a 124% year-over-year increase from March of 2024. Cannabis oil exports also reached a new high of 3,756.58 liters as of March of 2025. These figures have fluctuated significantly on a monthly basis, having exceeded 3,000 liters 2 other times since January of 2024.
And there you go. Numbers. You know, it's nice that the licenses are remaining steady. I'm surprised by the going down. Like, I can't see where people would think it was cheaper to just go to the store and buy it.
Yeah, way cheaper. Much cheaper. When you count in the cost of your electricity, your time, what you have to do to prepare it, to look after it, to cut it, to everything else, when you can go to an indigenous store and get it for $2 or $3 a gram.
I don't know. That's what I like now about growing outside, is that the sun doesn't cost you money.
Yeah, here in Nova Scotia, that's a little higher.
Electricity cost. Yeah.
Yeah, just because of it gets so damp, and the last number of years, I'd say the last 4 years, almost everybody I know that grows has lost, anywhere between 80 to 100% of their grow
Oh,
simply because
really?
it's become musty, moldy, like bud rot set in. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
like
So if you stop and compare all that for not necessarily on the inside of Canada, but on the edges, like in and around the oceans, it gets awfully hard to grow.
and there are patients. I know one, for example, that grew 2 plants, but they only got 3 ounces off the 2 plants.
Yeah. So
You can
yeah,
have a
it's
bad crop, but still, it's if you're going to if you don't have access to an indigenous store and you're going to just regular stores, you're paying like $500 a month for 2 to 3 grams a day.
for 3 grams a day. My bill is around $800 a month.
Well, there you go. Perfect example. I didn't pay $800 a day to grow $800 a month to grow my own cannabis when I was growing
Now,
indoors.
mind you, I'm ordering everything pre-rolled. It would be about $550 if I were ordering it unrolled. I'm
So yeah, easy
yeah.
math, $6, $18 a day times 30. 500 or basically $500.
Yep.
So alrighty, yeah, I know, eh? That's what I like about the indoor-outdoor license. You're not paying for that electricity through the summer. Trying to keep things cool, adding the air
Yes.
conditioner and everything. So, all right, on to the next story.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Doctors could legally administer Schedule I drugs or medicines, I should say, like MDMA and psilocybin to seriously ill patients under new bipartisan bill in Congress.
The bipartisan House and Senate lawmakers have introduced a bill to Congress to allow doctors to administer Schedule I drugs or medicines, such as certain psychedelics, to patients with life-threatening conditions. The Freedom to Heal Act, sponsored by Senators Cory Booker and Rand Paul, as well as Reps Madeline Dean and Nancy Mace, aims to expand on the country's right to try law.
Policy creates an exception with the Controlled Substances Act, the CSA, that gives qualified patients access to potential therapies that haven't yet been approved by the FDA. This is really cool. The lawmakers noted that the FDA has designated 2 psychedelics, MDMA and psilocybin, as breakthrough therapies for treatment of serious mental health conditions. Yet the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, currently has no pathway to authorize physicians to administer the medicines, despite the broader right to try policy, they said.
To address that, the new bill would amend current statute to allow DEA to register and authorize doctors to administer the novel therapeutics. They say that patients facing life-threatening illnesses or severe mental health conditions deserve access to every possible treatment, including investigational therapies such as MDMA and psilocybin that have shown to be safe and effective in multiple clinical trials, Booker said in a press release.
Interesting. Thousands of Americans, many of them veterans, are desperate for access to these therapies after exhausting all approved treatments in the United States, he said. The Freedom to Heal Act is critical legislation that will remove unnecessary barriers and give physicians a pathway to legally administer these potentially life-saving treatments. All four bicameral lawmakers introduced a bill last session that similarly sought to leverage right-to-try laws and expand access to Schedule I medicines for severely ill patients, albeit with provisions differing from those in the current proposal. In 2022, Booker and Paul teamed up on an earlier version of the legislation. Mace, as well as then Representative Earl Blominer, sponsored the House version that year.
As a physician, I have seen how critical right to try can be for patients who are running out of options. Yet current law leaves doctors with no clear legal way to administer investigational therapies that fall under Schedule I, Paul said on last week. Now, it goes on to say that this bill creates that pathway. I am glad to work across the aisle to ensure patients and their doctors are not blocked by federal barriers who have exhausted standard options. This is a practical reform that honors both patient autonomy and medical judgment.
Dean, for her part, said, as families across the country face the growing mental health and substance use disorder crisis, we must expand their options for care. Our bipartisan legislation reduces barriers for physicians to provide compassionate use of several innovative and potentially life-saving treatments, including MDMA and psilocybin, the Congresswoman said. Our loved ones, including our veterans who served and sacrificed, deserve to heal. Congress must work to make that recovery possible for more people.
The bill represents a departure from what the lawmakers proposed in previous years. The prior version would have created a procedure through which current Schedule I drugs that are deemed breakthrough therapies by FDA or qualify for a waiver under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act could be transferred to a lower schedule that would make them easier to study and promote drug development. Relatedly, a Washington state doctor has spent years pursuing various legal and regulatory pathways to allow the clinic to use psilocybin in palliative care. His clinic has presented DEA with multiple proposals to legally cultivate or otherwise obtain psilocybin to treat patients under right to try. The agency has denied them all.
We believe Congress should act with urgency to pass the Freedom to Heal Act. Martin Steele, president of the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition, said, it is clearly wrong and immoral that veterans are leaving the country they selflessly served to access potentially life-saving treatments that should already be available within our borders under right to try. Lives are on the line. Let's act now, he said.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, let's act now. Exactly. Why put it off? Delaying things, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. One more story. One more.
I just did the same thing.
I thought that was the last story, but it's not, obviously. So this is the last story before we go to break. Here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from Normal. Cannabis inhalation associated with symptomatic improvements in adults with autism spectrum disorder.
Adults with ASD report significant improvements in their symptoms following cannabis inhalation, according to data published in the journal Nature Scientific Reports. Researchers affiliated with the Washington State University and the University of New Orleans reviewed data from 111 self-identified ASD patients between the ages of 19 and 70. Now, study participants self-medicated with cannabis and reported their results in real time on the mobile technology platform StrainPrint. Investigators accessed nearly 6,000 separate StrainPrint entries compiled over 74 months.
They reported using a large data set from self-identified autistic adults self-medicating with cannabis. We found that ratings of the severity of negative affect, which is anxiety and irritability, were reduced 75.78%. 75%. Ratings of the severity of repetitive behaviors, compulsive behaviors, were reduced by 70.41%. That's huge.
Yeah.
Ratings of the severity of problems with mental control, concentration, were reduced by 68.59%. Holy cannoli. And ratings of sensitivity, skin and sound sensitivity or sensory overload, were reduced by 68%. Holy Joe. For immediately before to shortly after inhaling cannabis. Moreover, these symptoms were reduced rather than exacerbated or unchanged in 98.3% of the cannabis use sessions. Holy cannoli. These findings are among the first to indicate that cannabis is perceived to improve highly prevalent symptoms associated with ASD in adults using cannabis for symptom management. Study participants acknowledged experiencing symptomatic improvements from cannabis regardless of its potency or its cannabinoid ratios.
These findings indicate that well-powered placebo-controlled trials are warranted to examine the acute effects of various cannabinoids and manipulations of cannabinoid system on ASD symptoms. The study authors conclude.
Yeah, the findings are consistent with observational studies involving patients enrolled in the United Kingdom's Medical Cannabis Registry, was similarly reported for adults with ASD experienced improved symptoms and reduced their use of prescription medications following their use of medical cannabis products.
There you go.
Interesting.
Cannabis for adults with ASD. And look at what it does. The improvements were huge. That was 98% of them finding some difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
98. I'm going to give it 98 and a third percent. That third's big. Like, I mean, less than 2% didn't.
Yeah. And everybody else did.
That's really amazing.
Research that says, let's keep getting more and let's get, this out there. So, all right. Time for us to take a break. We've got, 4 more stories when we get back from that break. You're watching Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News. We're live here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats. And look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have. As well as, for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford, Ontario. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, you're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News. We got 4 more stories to bring up before we're done for the day. And of course, there'll be Psychedelics and Cannabis. And we're going to start off with the psychedelic story. Here we go.
Here we go. Coming to us from Cornell Chronicle. A dose of psilocybin, a dash of rabies point to treatment for depression.
I'm also going to note that David Nutt right here, I'm going to say it's probably the same David Nutt that was involved with the British Columbia, not the British Columbia, but the British government. And he told them that they should legalize cannabis for medical purposes, and they didn't like that. Now, an international collaboration led by Cornell researchers used a combination of psilocybin and the rabies virus to map out and where the psychedelic compound rewires the connections in the brain. Specifically, they showed psilocybin weakens the corticocortical feedback loops that can lock people into negative thinking. Psilocybin also strengthens pathways to subcortical regions that turn sensory perceptions into action, essentially enhancing sensory motor responses.
The findings published December 5th in Cell. The lead author is postdoctoral researcher Wan Zhang. The project is the latest in a trial of discoveries by Alex Kwan, who got his PhD in 2009, who's a professor of biomedical engineering in Cornell Engineering and the senior author of this paper. Kwan's lab studies the ways psychiatric drugs such as psilocybin, ketamine, and 5-MeO-DMT rewire the brain's neurological circuitry with the goal of developing therapeutic treatments for depression.
Psilocybin, which is the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, is a promising candidate for pharmaceutical development because the clinical trials have shown that psychedelic medicines can reduce symptoms in people with depression for weeks and perhaps even months after a single treatment. In 2021, Kwan's group used high-resolution optical imaging to show that a single dose of psilocybin induces structural plasticity, the brain's ability to reshape its structure, by rapidly growing dendritic spines that lead to synaptic connections.
A lot of people were excited about the earlier study because psychedelics are promising therapeutics, but we don't know why they work. Our study showed that the rewiring of the brain lasts a long time, Kwan said. One of the key questions was that even though we show the new connections, that new connections are being made, we don't know where they connect. The goal of this study is to figure out what exactly are the parts of the circuit that get rewired. To do that, Kwan's group took a new approach. Instead of using optics to image individual synaptic connections, they paired the psilocybin with one of biology's wiliest adversaries, the rabies virus. The virus, created by collaborators at the Allen Institute for Brain Sciences in Seattle, would move through and chart the brain's very complex wiring diagram, Kwan said, much like Google's mapping car roams all the streets in a neighborhood.
With psilocybin, it's like we're adding all these roads to the brain, but we don't know where the roads go, Kwan says. Here, we use the rabies virus to read out the connectivity in the brain, because these viruses are engineered in nature to transmit between neurons. That's how they're so deadly. It jumps the synapses and goes from one neuron to another. First, the researchers injected a single dose of psilocybin into a mouse's frontal cortical pyramidal neurons. Then, a day later, they chased it with a variant of the rabies virus that could transmit across a synapse and labeled these connected neurons with fluorescent proteins. After the virus had incubated in the mouse for a week, the team imaged its brain and compared the results with a control mouse brain that had only received the virus.
The fluorescent tagging revealed that psilocybin had weakened recurrent connections with the cortex, feedback loops that may explain why a depressed person fixates on negative thoughts. Remuneration is one of the main points for depression, where people have this unhealthy focus and they keep dwelling on the same negative thoughts, Kwan said. By reducing some of these feedback loops, our findings are consistent with the interpretation that psilocybin may rewire the brain to break or at least weaken that cycle.
The researchers also saw that the sensory area of the brain becomes more strongly wired to the subcortical region, strengthening the link between the perception and action. Initially, Kwan expected to find connections between one or two regions of the brain, but he was surprised to discover psilocybin's rewiring involved the whole brain.
This is really looking at brain-wide changes, he said. That's a scale that we have not worked at before. A lot of times we're focusing on a small part of the neural circuit. The extensive pathway mapping also showed that the amount of firing activity in the brain may determine what gets rewired by the medicines. That inspired the researchers to demonstrate that by perturbing and manipulating the neural activity of one brain region, they could actually change the way psilocybin rewires the circuitry.
Kwan says that this opens up many possibilities for therapeutics, how you maybe avoid some of the plasticity that's negative, and then enhance specifically those that are positive. Now, co-authors list a bunch of people here that are involved in this, and the research was supported by One Mind and the National Institutes of Health.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. The stuff that keeps coming out, rewiring brains, and it's just wow.
Yeah, well, that's what neuroplasticity enables us to do, is to rewire those pathways that we don't want and change them. And then psilocybin has been proven to go in and help the brain rewire after brain injuries such as, concussions or stroke.
Yeah. Who knew? Like, geez, good stuff. All right, we're gonna move on to the next story.
Mm-hmm. Coming to us from StratCan, Canadian retail cannabis sales continue to show annual growth.
Year-over-year retail cannabis sales in Canada have continued to inch upwards, with $475 million in sales in September, just down from a new peak of $503 million in sales in August. Despite some slowing from previous rapid growth, the market continues to show upward pressure on an annual basis.
The two most recently reported months were up 2% in August and 7% in September compared to the same periods in the previous year. August and December have historically been among the highest months for cannabis sales in the past. All the kids are leaving for university.
And Christmas.
Unsurprisingly, Ontario saw the most sales, followed in a distant second by Alberta. British Columbia and Quebec are neck and neck in third and fourth. Those were followed in order of highest sales by Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, PEI, and the Yukon. The provincial figures are unadjusted for seasonality.
Statistics Canada regularly updates their monthly sales figures as new data comes in, causing these numbers to fluctuate over time. Here's a graph for you. As of December, there were more than 3,800 authorized locations to purchase cannabis in Canada. More than 1,800 are located in Ontario, followed by Alberta with 723, BC with 543, Alberta's got 244, and Saskatchewan 200.
Quebec has 108 retail locations. Newfoundland has 63. We have 51 here in Nova Scotia. We've got an extra one. Yay. New Brunswick has 50. The Yukon has 6. While PEI and the Northwest Territories have 5. And Nunavut has 3. And honestly, for PEI, 5 is probably more than enough. Canadian households spent over $9 billion on cannabis last year in 2024, and the majority of it coming from the legal market that we know of.
Lots of money. There's no doubt about that.
Lots and lots and lots of money.
Yeah, and maybe why it goes back to that first story of the day that's going on down there in Nova Scotia, right? Lots of money.
Well, there are ways around that for the government too, but they don't want to look at any of that. I get it. I agree that the Indigenous should be able to do what they want. Their land was stolen. They were, we all know the stories. So making a deal that there is 50 cents per gram should be paid to the government, for whatever there's got to be a middle ground there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like the taxes on it, the per diem on it, the something on it, but leave them the frig alone.
Yeah, there was something in the story there about some money going back into the community to come onto the legal system. But
a lot of these places give money back to the community, and they don't just these dispensaries. Is the same as they are out there. It's more than just cannabis. It's festivals around it. It's learning around it. It's there's so much more than that. It's a very large part of the community, right? And
exactly. Alrighty, 2 more stories to go. Here we go.
Coming to us from TVP World, Czech doctors can prescribe medicinal magic mushrooms from 2026 on.
All right. Patients in Czech Republic with depression and other conditions that do not respond well to conventional treatments will be able to take medicinal magic mushrooms from next year. Strict new rules have been introduced which permit therapeutic psilocybin, the ingredients within magic mushrooms, to be prescribed to patients.
This makes the Czech Republic the first European country to allow psychedelics to be used to treat depression. The guidelines have been drawn up by the Psychiatric Society of the Czech Medical Society and specify who can administer the medicine and under what circumstances.
The low toxicity of psilocybin, minimal to no risk of addiction, and generally high safety levels have also been demonstrated, the Ministry of Health said. And they said that the change in the law is not expected to affect a large number of people, but it represents a significant step for mental health treatment, that news site expats wrote.
Until now, patients have only had the chance to undergo treatment as part of scientific studies. Health officials said antidepressants work roughly 70% of patients, and psychedelics could provide an effective alternative for the other 30%. I think that they've got those numbers backwards, in my own opinion. And this is what their website has reported. Psilocybin will be used in therapeutic sessions, typically lasting 6 hours with 2 qualified therapists. The dose would depend on the patient's weight and must not exceed 75 milligrams per month.
As you go back to that other story we had where with the ASD and the numbers that they were getting on the improvements, if it's 70% is good enough for an antidepressant to be prescribed to a patient, then shouldn't the numbers for the ASD go a long ways to prescribing cannabis to somebody with ASD?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, they say at the moment there are a few dozen specialists in the Czech Republic who could administer the sessions, and they are mostly based in the capital, Prague, and the second largest city, Brno, in the south. Director of National Institute of Mental Health, Jerry Horek, told the Czech news agency that the exact start date of the psilocybin prescription program, as well as future levels of access, will depend on insurers.
He said psilocybin could also be used to treat psychiatric conditions for which no other therapies exist, such as depression following a cancer diagnosis. Experts say almost a third of adults in the Czech Republic have a mental illness, and it is one of the most common reasons for issuing disability benefits. Approximately 700,000 suffer from depression or anxiety, the Czech news agency said.
And in 2015, the country legalized medicinal cannabis, which is most commonly used to treat pain, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, or in the treatment of cancer.
Yeah.
There you go. Czech Republic, stepping up. We don't even really have that. Like, we have that SAP program, but it's SAP.
It's
sappy.
I still haven't. I don't think I've ever heard a successful story about the SAP program yet.
No.
Now there might be out there, and I just haven't heard it because, like, I mean, they don't necessarily make the news, and so yeah. But I haven't gone to do like any in-depth research, but I haven't heard very much, if anything, good about the SAP program here.
Yeah. All right. Last story of the day, and one that I'm looking forward to reading because I think we need these here in Canada. Brought back Canada.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, coming to us from MJ Biz Daily. Are consumption lounges the next frontier for legal cannabis?
Yes. Cannabis consumption lounges are redefining hospitality with a buzzworthy twist. From yoga sessions with edibles to paint and puff nights, dedicated consumption spaces are the next chapter for the cannabis industry, according to Dale Sky Jones, counselor of Oakland, California-based Cannabis Education Institute, Oaksterdam University. And on a side note to that, I have been featured in a local paper on a yoga session dealing with cannabis.
Ooh, very cool.
Got my picture, full page. It's hanging in my room right now. You just can't see it.
Very cool. Lounges are the most exciting frontier for the cannabis industry, says Jones, who's leading a roundtable on consumption lounges at MJ BizCon in Las Vegas. But creating these spaces isn't just about good vibes.
A successful lounge act will master compliance, safety, and customer education to craft an experience as elevated as the patrons themselves. They can, in turn, build brand loyalty and unlock new revenue streams.
The foundation of a successful consumption lounge begins with the experience it delivers. Oh, for sure. Jones stressed the need for thoughtful design, seamless operations, and specialized staff training to ensure these spaces are not only compliant with local regulations, but also provide a memorable and enjoyable experience for patrons. Let me tell you, one of my favorite things to do when I hit BC, when I'm in Vancouver, I love, the first thing I've got to do is go down to the New Amsterdam, and it's a relaxing space. And they have all of that, like everything.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah. They say from air filtration systems to soundproofing for music venues, every detail plays a role in shaping the customer journey. Jones goes on to say that hospitality is about reducing friction and creating a flow that feels natural. Whether it's the layout of a buffet or educating customers about dosing and onset times, every element contributes to the overall experience.
Staff training is crucial, especially recognizing signs of overconsumption and managing cannabis naive customers. Most people don't know their tolerance, and that's where education and safety come in, Jones says. Bars have alcohol management techniques, and we need that for cannabis. I'm just gonna, take a second here and talk about when I was in Amsterdam. Every lounge I was in, I mean, of course, they're used to dealing with people from around the world. It was a tourist thing, but the bud tenders that were there were very awesome. Somebody would come in that they wouldn't recognize, and they would have the whole conversation with them every time. It was just really kind of neat to watch. Yeah.
They say that we need staff to handle these situations, provide spaces for patrons to rest and hydrate, and ensure everyone has a positive experience. Now, consumption lounges offer opportunities for businesses willing to innovate. There are comedy nights and music venues and dual-use spaces. The possibilities are endless.
Tribal governments in particular have a unique advantage, as they can craft models that integrate cannabis into existing recreational environments like casinos and resorts. New Cannabis in downtown Las Vegas provides an ideal example, but the challenges are significant.
Compliance remains a major hurdle, with state and local regulations often treating cannabis differently than alcohol. Cannabis businesses are more exposed to legal and insurance risks than establishments that serve alcohol. We have to be our own advocates, Jones says, urging operators to prioritize safety and compliance while pushing for fair regulations. Insurance hasn't caught up.
Public education is another critical area because cannabis is not as well understood as alcohol, Jones said. We need to educate not just consumers, but also city councils, state governments, and regulators to ensure these models are allowed and supported.
Jones sees consumption lounges as a way to elevate cannabis brands and create new business models. She goes on to say that the brands that succeed will be the ones that focus on lifestyle and experience. You can't take cannabis across state lines, but you can take the experience.
She also envisions a future where cannabis is seamlessly integrated into everyday activities, from senior care to dog parks. People love to bring their dogs to the park and enjoy a yoga class. Why not add cannabis to those experiences in a safe and responsible way? Heck yeah.
That's right, exactly. Now, as the industry continues to evolve, Jones urged operators to balance advocacy with responsibility to educate customers and the community. She says that by leading with education, safety, and innovation, we can show the world that cannabis is a healthier, safer choice. This is our chance to redefine what hospitality means. Let's do it right.
Absolutely.
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 Yeah. Lounges, big time. I'm all in favor of lounges. I can tell you that. I know Toronto, when there was a dozen of them in Toronto, they were there was lots of people.
And there are more popping up in Toronto, like I understand Vapor Central's gone.
Yeah, you're talking about like Lit Research is there.
Yeah, and then there's Lit Research is there. There's still the oh my God, the name is escaping me.
OPP. The OPP.
What's that?
The OPP station.
The OPP.
Yeah, there's a place people call it the OPP station, but it's not the place. It's Our People's Pot.
Oh, well, there was the one that you go up the big old flight of stairs. It's still there. And then there's been a few that have popped up, but Planet Paradise.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I think I heard that it was closed, but
I heard that it was still there, but it's turned into quite the bougie. It's like a sports bar, but for cannabis. So there's always sports on the show. So it's not not like it used to be. That's down. There's another place that they opened up where everybody moved to.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's a few of them, but they still have to be kind of quiet about what they do and hide a bit.
Yeah, well, that's because of the Smoke-Free Act that we got here.
Yeah.
But like the article touches on, music and other events and all that they were held at these lounges. Some of them were successful, some of them not so successful.
Yeah.
Right? And the other thing too is, like I said when we started the show, it's minus 21 out there. Patients being forced to go outside because they live in a condominium where a condominium doesn't allow them to smoke. Medicaid. Forcing
Hospitals
them outside.
picking them outside.
Yeah.
I'll shut that one up. I'll be quiet about that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, like the hospitals, like, I've got an aunt that's just about to turn 102 as well. And I was up in Ontario and was there to celebrate her 100th birthday. And these old age people are they're kicked outside.
Yeah.
They're allowed to have it. The nurses will help them roll it, but they still have to go outside to use their medicine, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. It'd be nice. Like I understand there was the smoke concern, but can they not create some space for them to go to?
Used to do it with cigarettes.
Used to. Yeah. I remember those days. All righty. Other than that, anything else before we say goodbye?
Yes. One more thing. I am going to share this. We have this Wednesday coming up again at the Halifax Library in the BMO room. Our next in our speaker series this week, we have Angela Amiros stepping up. She is a cannabis therapist, and I was able to sit with a session with her. She's really pretty amazing, and she's going to talk about integrating the journey, a practical guide to psychedelic integration. And if you've ever done any of these medicines, you understand that a lot of the work and a lot of the healing comes in the integration afterwards. And Angela is going to speak to that and the importance of it. So if you're able to show up, please come on down on Wednesday night. If not, we will have the Zoom link up again.
All right, and people can be able to watch it through the Zoom link and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And on Friday, we have our social coming up, and you can get information about that on the site. We don't have an event made up for it, but it is, I can't remember the name of the place downtown, but it's on Tower Road in Halifax. You can reach out to me or reach out to the Nova Scotia Psychedelic Society for that information, but we have a social coming up, and we're going to have an open forum on harm reduction.
Good stuff. All right. Way to go. Good work going on down there. All right. That's our report for today. I hope you found it educational and informative. And thanks to our sponsors, Limestone City, Hydroponics.ca, Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. Just so you know, they have 10th anniversary sale going on there at Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, as well as At-Eze.ca. And don't forget to educate, medicate, do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.